Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC 285, Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane, and this is an incredible UFC fight card. It is stacked from top to bottom with incredible matchups, and the featured fight on the main card is Geoff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction for this fight, and this is my most anticipated fight on the card outside of the main event, Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane. And I am so happy that this fight is finally happening. It was originally scheduled for mid-January. Unfortunately, Geoff Neal had to pull out of the fight. There was talk of maybe finding Shavkat Rakhmonov another opponent. I am so happy they just rescheduled Geoff Neal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov for UFC 285 because this is a matchup that I have been dying to see. This is the toughest test of Shavkat Rakhmonov's career. There is a lot of hype behind Shavkat. And he's fought some decent competition, and we're going to talk about his resume in a minute. But this is the toughest test of his pro MMA career. And for Geoff Neal, he's had a bit of a career resurgence. A few years ago, he was looked at as a future title contender potentially. Then he kind of had some health issues. He returned. He went on a bit of a losing skid. But now he has had a career resurgence. In his last fight, he looked better than ever. He's ranked in the top 10, and he is going to give Shavkat Rakhmonov the toughest test of his career, and we are going to get some answers about how good Shavkat actually is with this fight at UFC 285. If I had to compare this fight to another fight, it would be Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev. Not necessarily in the skill matchup, but the fact that you have a lot of hype behind Shavkat, but he hasn't really been tested. And Geoff Neal is an elite of the elite fighter. He's looked so good in his last few fights. He's looked better than ever. He's still young. He's still improving. And if Shavkat Rakhmonov can go out there and get a win over Geoff Neal, he's going to be in the title discussion. And for Geoff Neal, there's a lot of fighters, shout out to Geoff Neal, because there's a lot of fighters that don't want to fight guys behind them in the rankings. You know, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, if you wrestled in middle school, Wonderboy Thompson will turn down a fight with you. He turned down a fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov. But I think there is something to be said for shutting down the hype of a fighter. And if Geoff Neal can go out there and beat Shavkat Rakhmonov and do it impressively, he will put himself in that title discussion as well. So this is a massive fight for both guys. So if you look at the tail of the tape for this fight, you have Geoff Neal, who is 15-4, Shavkat Rakhmonov, 16-0. Neal is ranked number 7. Rakhmonov is ranked number 10. Neal is 32. Rakhmonov is 28. Neal is 5'11". Rakhmonov is 6'1". Neal has a 75-inch reach, and Rakhmonov has a 77-inch reach. So a 2-inch height and reach advantage for Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, if you look at Rakhmonov's pro MMA career, he is 16-0, undefeated, which is very impressive. But what makes it even more impressive is he's never been to a decision. He has 8 wins by KO or TKO and 8 wins by submission. His last fight was against Neil Magny back in June of 2022. And he went out there and made Neil Magny look like he didn't even belong. Took Neil Magny down early, controlled him on the ground, beat him up on the ground, and then the second round takes him down again, ends up getting a guillotine, finishes him in the second round. And Neil Magny is the measuring stick of the welterweight division. I like to call him the top 15 gatekeeper. And Shavkat went out there and made him look like they weren't even in the same universe skill-wise. And that is an opponent in common with Geoff Neal, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The fight before that, Shavkat defeated Carlston Harris. I know a lot of people aren't super familiar with Carlston Harris. He has nasty power in his hands, and he has very good wrestling. Shavkat went out there, wasn't having success with the wrestling, wasn't having success with the takedowns, lands a spinning back heel kick, knocks Carlston Harris down, swarms him on the ground, and brutally TKOs him in the first round. The fight before that, he took on Michel Prazeres, and this was a solid win as well. Finished him in the second round via rear naked choke, hurt him, fouled him to the ground, finished him. And, you know, this isn't the greatest opponent, but Prazeres was on PEDs and tested positive after this, and was eventually cut from the UFC, but still an okay win. And then Shavkat made his UFC debut against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Now, I'm not saying Alex Cowboy Oliveira is the elite of the elite in the welterweight division, But that is a tough UFC debut. And he absolutely ran through him, finished him via submission guillotine in the first round as well. So he's had an absolute tear in the UFC. But as I've mentioned, the resume isn't that great. And this is his first real step up in competition. You know, I know Neil Magny was a little bit of a step up. It was kind of the gatekeeper for the top 15. But Geoff Neal is a whole nother animal, even though Geoff Neal has a loss to Neil Magny, which we'll talk about in a second. Geoff Neal has 15 pro MMA wins, 9 by knockout, 2 by submission, 4 by decision. Of his 4 losses, he's only been knocked out once, then he lost once by submission and 2 by decision. He comes into this fight on a 2-fight winning streak, and his last fight was in August of 2022 against Vicente Luque. And this was a fight, a lot of people were picking Vicente Luque. And Geoff Neal went out there in the first round, put on a masterclass, was just landing at will against Vicente Luque, hitting him with the left hand over and over and over again. Dropped him once, stumbled him once in this round, almost finished him multiple times in this round. And it was crazy. Geoff Neal just looked to be on another level striking-wise in this first round. Then in the second round, Vicente Luque kind of comes back a little bit, and the momentum starts to swing towards Vicente Luque, or at least even out a bit. You know, it was a very competitive second round. Vicente Luque was having some moments. Geoff Neal was having some moments. Geoff Neal shot in on a takedown, took Vicente Luque down. Didn't really control him. Luque popped right back to his feet. But it was starting to look like, okay, could the tide turn in Vicente Luque's favor? Did Geoff Neal use too much energy in that first round looking for those finishes? Well, the third round starts. Geoff Neal goes right back to doing what he was doing in that first round. Eventually lands a nasty left hand, rocks Vicente Luque. Luque backs up against the fence. Geoff Neal just starts unloading uppercuts, like 10 uppercuts, landing at will, and then eventually backs up, lands a left hand, and finishes Vicente Luque. And this was a dominant win for Geoff Neal. I know I said the second round was competitive, but outside of that second round, Geoff Neal was just putting a striking clinic on Vicente Luque. So a solid win there. The fight before that, he fought Santiago Ponzinibbio. This was a split decision win for Geoff Neal. This was a back and forth fight. It could have went either way. Both guys landed good shots. And ultimately, Geoff Neal gets the decision. It was a very close competitive fight. But Santiago Ponzinibbio, another one of those guys who is really good. I don't believe he's ranked right now. But at the point they fought, he was ranked. Then before that, he has 2 losses. One loss to Neil Magny, one loss to Wonderboy Thompson. The loss to Neil Magny was back in May of 2021. In this fight, Geoff Neal just looked like he couldn't pull the trigger. And there were some moments where Neil Magny was able to take him down, get some positional control. There were some moments where Neil Magny was able to control him in the clinch. And ultimately, Neil Magny, you know, he was able to win this fight. But I think Geoff Neal was just... he just wasn't active enough in this fight. Had he been more active, I believe he could have beat Neil Magny. I picked Geoff Neal to beat Neil Magny in this fight. And also, we have to take into account that Geoff Neal was coming back from a serious illness. He was in the ICU. I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it might have been before the Wonderboy Thompson fight, but he still was trying to figure things out, you know. And the Wonderboy fight, he went out there in the Wonderboy fight and just got outstruck against Wonderboy. And Wonderboy is one of the best strikers in the division. But I just really think a lot of people forget about that when they look at that 2-fight losing skid. And sometimes I kind of forget about it too. But Geoff Neal had a serious infection. He had issues. He had like heart failure, kidney failure. He was in the hospital. Then he came back and just never looked the same up until the Vicente Luque fight. So this could be the Geoff Neal that we were seeing TKOing Mike Perry back in 2019, TKOing Nico Price back in 2019, back when these were solid wins, not the greatest wins. He has a win over Bilal Muhammad. Look where Bilal Muhammad is in the division currently, a top 5 ranked guy. So he has some solid wins. He looked incredible back in his run in 2018 and 2019. He had that losing skid, but now he's back on the winning track against Ponzinibbio and against Vicente Luque. And I think this is a matchup that really could go either way. I know a lot of people are favoring Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I'm going to give my prediction in a second, but I think Geoff Neal is such a technical striker. I think he's super well-rounded. He's decent in the clinch. He has decent takedown defense. There's never really been a guy, like even Neil Magny, who took him down, never really controlled him for a substantial period of time. And he's only ever been finished by knockout once and by submission once, and that were very early in his career. One was by Kevin Holland back in 2017. That's 6 years ago. The other one was all the way back in 2013 when he lost via submission. So this is a rapidly improving Geoff Neal. This is a vastly better Geoff Neal than when he's been finished. And you have Shavkat, who I don't want to say he's an unknown, but there's a lot of variables there because he hasn't fought the elite level of competition. So I really think this is a fight where Geoff Neal may come out and put on a striking clinic because Geoff Neal has excellent striking. He has an excellent jab. He has an excellent left hand. He moves well. He has great footwork. But Shavkat Rakhmonov is super well-rounded in his own right. He has excellent grappling, excellent submissions. He's a very dynamic striker. A lot of people hear the name Shavkat Rakhmonov. They immediately think of some crazy grappler. And he is a very good grappler, but he is an elite level striker as well. And he's super explosive. He's super dynamic. He's throwing spinning back kicks to the body. He's throwing spinning wheel kicks. He landed that on Carlston Harris. He's throwing nasty step-in knees and rocking guys. So he's super well-rounded as well. So I think no matter how this fight ends, this will be a very exciting fight. For my official prediction, I am going Shavkat Rakhmonov second round TKO. I believe in the hype. I am on the Shavkat Rakhmonov train. And I think Geoff Neal sometimes is a little bit too complacent. And I think Rakhmonov, the hype is real. I think he has very good striking, very good grappling. I think he's going to mix in the clinch. I think he's going to mix in the takedown attempts. And I think Geoff Neal will be able to get up. I think he'll be able to defend some of the takedowns. But I think just the thought of those takedowns and also the finishing ability of Shavkat with the submissions, with the TKOs, I think Geoff Neal is going to be a little bit more hesitant on the feet. And when he's hesitant on the feet, he ends up losing. And I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to go out there. It's going to be a very competitive fight early. I think Geoff Neal is going to land some decent shots as well. But I think Rakhmonov is going to be pushing him against the cage, backing away, landing some good shots on the feet. I think he's going to be throwing some spinning back kicks to the body. And I think he's going to mix in the grappling just enough. He's not going to be desperate for the takedown, but mix in the grappling just enough that Geoff Neal is going to be thinking about it, and he's going to be too busy thinking about the takedown and not thinking enough about his offensive striking. So I think you're going to have a Shavkat who clinches with Geoff Neal early, but he's not in desperation mode looking for a takedown, does some dirty boxing. Maybe they break. He lands some shots on the feet. Geoff Neal, pumping the jab, landing left hand. Geoff Neal mixes in the kicks, but he doesn't mix in the kicks as well as Shavkat Rakhmonov. I believe the variety of attack from Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to have Geoff Neal playing a little bit of a guessing game because Rakhmonov is mixing in nasty body kicks. He has great striking with his hands. He has great low kicks and great step-in knees as well. I think he's going to mix those in this fight. And I think all that combined together is going to be too much for Geoff Neal. And I think as we get to the second round, I think Geoff Neal is going to be kind of tentative on the feet. I think he's going to be backing away. He has a tendency to back up, put his back on the cage a little bit too much. And I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to find a shot and rock Geoff Neal, then follow him to the ground and finish him via ground and pound TKO. And I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to propel himself in the title discussion in the welterweight division because what a massive win that would be. But I think just Shavkat is too well-rounded, and I think that's what's going to win him this fight. It's going to be everything combined. The dynamic striking, the variety of attack, the takedown threat, the clinch threat. And I think Geoff Neal isn't going to have an answer for Shavkat on the feet. I think combine that grappling aspect to it. We've seen it time and time again. Maybe Geoff Neal's a better striker than Shavkat, but when you add the threat of the takedown, when you add the threat of the clinch, a lot of the time you have a guy who's maybe a better striker getting outstruck. I always mention the Khabib Nurmagomedov Conor McGregor fight. Khabib dropped Conor because Conor was too worried about the takedown threat. And I think in this fight, Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to land good shots on the feet. I think he's going to get his timing in the first round. And I think eventually he's going to find, I'm going to say he's going to find the step-in knee. Geoff Neal is going to be kind of like leaning down, backing up against the fence. And I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to land a step-in knee, drop him, and then finish him with ground and pound TKO stoppage mid-second round. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Are you picking Geoff Neal or are you picking Shavkat Rakhmonov? If you guys enjoyed this prediction video, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Don't forget to like the video. And I will be linking my entire UFC 285 playlist down in the description if you want to go check out any of my other UFC 285 prediction videos. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.